From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. I am Nick Barris. It is Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. And, we're going to talk TV this morning. How about that? I think that makes sense since you're watching TV as we speak. And we'll open up the phone lines. You're invited to join in the conversation as we talk about some of the new shows coming to CBS. Programming, what it is you watch, what we have on our TV station, what we put on. This is your chance this morning if you want to call in, ask questions as we show you some clips for some of the new programs that are about to start, but also talk about what shows you like, if you have questions about any programs in the past, or if you have a suggestion for our programming director here, who's the one, you're hard-pressed to find anyone that knows more about TV than Mark Binda. Good morning to you, sir.
How are you? Good to see you.
The truth is, you and I go way back. He's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine, and I've learned more from you about TV, and I always try to stump him with questions and things like this. Can't be done when it comes to TV. The 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and all that. I've tried pulling that off. But thanks for coming on. Maybe if you would, just for our viewers, and we'll open up the line 737-7587, but so that they know what kind of questions they can ask. Tell them what, and I know it's evolved, a programming director does for a TV station like us. Okay.
Well, I mean, you know, when you're a CBS station, obviously, or NBC, ABC, the networks supply, a good portion of your programming. You know, they supply the morning news from 7 to 9, some of the soaps, Price is Right, the prime time, obviously, Stephen Colbert. But then there are those times of the day where you have to fill in locally, and stations such as Channel 5 tend to use a lot of news. You know, we've got the 3 hours in the morning and 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. But then you can't. Well, you could, but most stations don't do news in every single hour they've got to fill. So you have to buy other programming to fill in the day, and that's what we call the syndicated programming. In our case, it would be shows like Ellen and Rachel Ray, Inside Edition, Dr. Phil's a syndicated show, Dr. Oz, Wheel of Fortune. Those are the kind of shows that TV stations buy to fill in the rest of their day. So as a program director, you're really in charge of the lineup, putting that all together. So you're filling 24 hours a day, and then you're always dealing with things that come up. If for instance today the networks break in with news about what's going on in New York and Jersey, it might affect our programming schedule, and then there are little moves you have to make to handle that sometimes. Right,
and oftentimes you're one of the first phone calls, for instance, like the weather team will make if we have to break in, as we've often done when there's severe weather, wall-to-wall coverage. And that's where you have to kind of just evaluate, what are we going to do with all these programs? And a lot of people say, hey, I missed my soap today, or I missed the program this evening, and you try to make it up to them.
Right. And a lot of times we'll try and run the soap overnight, if possible, those kind of things.
Okay, and you only have so much, though, right? We still have to abide by the scheduling of the networks, like when sometimes a favorite primetime program is moved from Thursday to Monday or something along those lines, or is canceled even. That's not you.
No, that's not us.
That is the network deciding to cancel or move a program around.
Right. That's anything really between 7 and 10 is usually the network. I mean, so if they're moving a show, like for instance NCIS LA is moving from Monday to Sundays this year, that's a network decision.
Okay.
So, when football runs long and pushes 60 minutes later, that's nothing we have any control over.
Yeah, but you still get those calls.
The number one call we got all year last year was, why is The Good Wife running at 8:44 instead of 8 p.m.?
Yeah, so football pushed it back or whatever along those lines. Well, you also, even though you don't have a hand in the development of these programs, and it comes from the network, get a sneak preview of some of the new shows that start. If you would also explain to people, we all know there's Nielsen ratings and how things go and when programs come out. What is it? Is the fall season and the announcement of these new programs the big exciting time? And what other times of the year does it come about?
Well, I mean, fall is traditionally the start of the new season. I mean, that's been time immemorial since you and I were kids. It was always the fall, but that is changing a lot. A lot of shows are now coming out. I mean, fall's still important, but people are rolling out shows in January, for example. CBS has got two or three shows they're holding back. Actually, they still have Amazing Race, which will air sometime coming up this season. It's not on the fall schedule, so. Shows will debut in January. Some shows may debut in March. We've seen examples of that. I mean, it's really changing because shows like they're not even TV stations, but a company like Netflix is debuting shows all the time,
Right.
and cable networks are debuting a lot of their best stuff in summer.
It is amazing, how times have changed, Mark, since we've done this in the past with so many, HBO and cable and Netflix, and you have a great example of it watching the Emmys last night, the national Emmys on these programs, and some of these shows, like I guess, Game of Thrones, right, was a huge winner for HBO last night at the Emmy. So much more competition out there for a good program.
There really is. And in fact, I gave up on the Emmys about an hour in. I watched Ray Donovan on Showtime. It's just like, I don't watch any of these shows that are winning. I mean, they're really good shows. I know it, but
I'm the same way.
I read the Game of Thrones books, but I've not been watching the TV show. I know everybody tells me I should. But with Netflix and all the shows on, there's just too much. There's too much programming.
Yeah, there's a lot, but there's a lot of fine programming and a lot on CBS. I want to say this before we get to some of the previews of our new shows, and we'll show you some of those and take calls as we go along the way. Every season, there's the debut of some new shows, and we've talked about this before. All right, how many, and maybe if you're talking about all the networks unveiling, and they all will be their new shows, how many really survive? What's a good average?
It's almost like baseball. If you can get 3 out of 10 to work, you're doing really well. There are years where none of your fall shows make it. There are years where a lot of your fall shows make it. Typically CBS is debuting 3 shows this week, 6 shows total this fall. You'd hope 2 of them work. That's just the law of averages.
And when you say work, meaning that they're renewed for another season, or because when one really does hit, like any of the CSIs, they'll go on for years.
Right.
Okay, which means it's a huge payoff if you get a hit show. So when you say work, meaning that if one of these shows or 2 of them out of these 6 work, that means they'd be renewed for next year, or are you saying work? They'll be around for several years.
Well, I mean, you want to get to year 2, obviously.
Okay.
I mean, so that's key. A lot of shows will, CBS will say, oh, it's done well enough, we'll renew it for the full season. So a lot of these shows are guaranteed 6 episodes or guaranteed 13 episodes. What you'll see is maybe by October, November, CBS will say, we think Bull's got a chance, and let's give it the full 22 episodes. So, but the real key is getting to year 2.
What's so interesting too, when you think of how many fail, Mark, if you would, development of a show. I mean, it costs a lot of money just to get to this point, to get even to have an idea, and whoever it is that pitches these shows to have it become a program. I mean, there's a lot invested in it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you've got to. There's somebody's got to write a script, somebody's got to come up with the idea. So, just to buy the idea, and then you've got to. CBS says, "Well, I like that idea. Let's go to script on it, and then we like that script. Let's actually shoot a pilot.
Then let's go get the actors who are going to do it.
Get a couple of stars and whatnot. So it does get very expensive. And for every, for these 6 shows, CBS probably developed maybe 4 times that many concepts. Maybe they had 24 shows they were looking at, and these are the 6 that
they
actually came out. So
sometimes I scratch. Sometimes I'll see a show and I'll go, boy, I can tell that's gonna be hit. And others, I say to myself, how did that even get in the pipeline?
Right.
What on earth? I have a good friend of mine who you've met, who is a former CBS executive. He's been on the show, and he told me, some of these crazy meetings sometimes when they're doing development, and just sometimes how the whole room could be missing the fact that this show is gonna bomb, or that this one that they're not paying attention to is going to do well. And I guess just like anything, it's hard to predict.
Yeah, it's really hard to predict. I mean, CSI is a good example. I think almost everybody in the room said this show's never going to work, and there was one guy in the room who said, no, let's try it, but put it on Friday night. It won't hurt us too bad on Friday. And
boy, what a payoff.
And 15 years plus 3 spin-offs. But this is kind of a little bit sad. This is the first fall we don't have a CSI on CBS since 2000. So,
one's maybe in the works. Who knows? Down the road.
Who knows?
Listen, before we go to the break, I think we're going to try to squeeze in one quick clip. Okay, this one, Kevin James.
Right.
All right, it's called Kevin Can Wait.
Debuts tonight.
And is it similar to his last show?
I mean, you'll see so many similarities. It's based in King of Queens. Kevin, I was married to Leah Remini. They didn't have kids. I would say this is King of Queens with kids. It's a little different. He's a retired cop, so he's now going to to be a stay-at-home dad. He's got 3 kids, so it's kind of the King of Queens, but with children. So I mean, it's actually this is an example where CBS really liked Kevin James so much. I mean, the King of Queens ran for 10 seasons or 9 seasons. So Les Moonves, the president of CBS, guaranteed them 22 episodes. I mean, so this one will be on all season unless it really totally bombs. But
I think it's cool. By the way, Kevin James is going to be on Talk of the Town today,
yes, he will.
as a matter of fact. But I was just
so are you?
Yeah, and I guess, am I today with the chicken? So gosh. Anyway, but Kevin James, likable guy. I mean, whatever.
My son loves those stupid Paul Blart movies.
He has carved out a nice career for himself. Let's have a look at this Kevin James clip from the new program coming out from CBS this week. Kevin can wait.
Hey, there you are. Since it's your retirement party tonight, if the leaves in the front yard got raked up today, that'd be great.
Oh, that'd be unbelievable.
I mean, you're home now. You have nothing but free time.
But that's the misconception about retired people. Some of us are very active, like me. I got the guys coming over at 11 for a little day drinking. Then we're all going to learn how to use crossbows.
Dad, I probably shouldn't go to school today. I think I got a concussion from football.
Jack, you play Madden football.
I had a little cake made up for you.
Oh.
This is your husband's first homicide scene.
Oh. Well, his little head fell off.
Oh, no. That's where it ended up. Now, Thursday, we got our go-kart race, and on Friday, we got shooting paintballs. I say we combine them. We call it, like, paint cart or go balls.
Yeah, I'm not down with go balls.
There's my baby girl. Look at this. I thought you had midterm.
All right, there's a brief taste of it. As I was just sitting there, I don't watch a lot of those sitcoms as much, with my schedule and what my preference is, more dramas. But I actually chuckled. You heard me a couple times with that. So
I mean, it's a family sitcom. CBS does that well. I mean, everybody else ran for years. And you look at the comedies on ABC that have done very well. It's the family sitcoms like Blackish, Modern Family, The Goldbergs. That seems to be what's working right now in broadcast television for sitcoms.
Looks funny. All right, listen, we'll
tonight
take a
at
break.
7:30 after The Big Bang Theory.
That's when it's airing tonight.
Yep.
Good. Thank you for saying that. We'll take a break. When we come back, look, we can talk about these programs, and more importantly, too, Mark Bindus here, our programming director. Questions about shows, and we always get one about Gunsmoke, which is one of our favorites, but that's not coming back, at least not anytime soon.
No.
We'll take a break.
James Arness is dead.
Yes, that's right. We'll rest in peace. We'll take a break and come back with some of your phone calls and more of the clips. Bull MacGyver, another one.
Okay.
Reboot. Good. We'll be back right after this.